I call this meeting to order at 7:30 p.m. We will now move to Section 2, swearing in. There is none. We'll now move into Section 3, opening roll call.
Attendance is now open. I have 29 senators present today.
Thank you. We will now move into Section 4, messages from the student body president. The clerk may read the initial messages.
Executive orders filed pursuant the authority vested in me as president of the association by the Constitution and the laws of the Wichita State University Student Government Association. I hereby direct and order the following. EO-68-025, establishing the Student Life Commission. EO-68-026, amending the Health and Wellness Commission. EO-68-027, designating authority to the Scholarship Commission. Establishing the Student Life Commission, whereas the quality of campus life plays a critical role in student engagement, well-being, success, and sense of belonging, and is shaped by co-curricular experiences, campus climate, and collective efforts of administrative units. And whereas it is essential to establish a collaborative, student-centered advisory body that elevates student voice, promotes cross-campus coordination, and provides strategic guidance to institutional leadership on matters affecting the overall campus experience. And whereas the Student Government Association serves a vital role in representing student interest, including the oversight of student fees, which is entrusted resources intended to support and benefit the student body. The need for consistent and regular review of student fees is necessary to promote transparency, accountability, and informed decision-making regarding the allocation and use of those funds. Now, therefore, pursuant the authority vested in me as president of the association by the Constitution and the laws of the Wichita State University Student Government Association, I hereby direct the following orders. Action 1. Establish the Student Life Commission as follows. Section 9. Student Life Commission. The Student Life Commission exists to advise, guide, and improve the quality of campus life by bringing together students, staff, and administrators to address issues that affect students' daily experiences and sense of belonging. The Student Life Commission shall advise the executive branch on areas relating to and offered by departments on campus relating to this section. The Student Life Commission shall exercise student fee oversight authority over the following student fee entities: student engagement and belonging, campus recreation, student accommodation and testing, graduate student programming, College of Fine Arts programming, student outreach services, Ratigan Student Center, and the Sunflower. The Student Life Commission shall be charged with advising on the housing and residence life room and board rates prior to the submission to the Student Senate. The following individuals shall make up the voting members of the Commission: the Vice President of the Association serving as Chairperson, the Treasurer of the Association serving as Vice Chairperson, the Speaker of the Student Senate, a Chairperson appointed by the Speaker of the Senate, a Cabinet Director appointed by the President of the Association, 2 Senators appointed by the Speaker of the Senate, 2 members of the Finance Commission appointed by the Treasurer of the Association, and 2 members of the Association appointed by the Vice President of the Association. Excuse me. The following individuals shall make up non-voting members of the Commission: the Director or designees of the respective units listed in 9C, the Association's advisor or a designee. Action 2. Authority of the Treasurer of the Association, Finance Commission, Student Senate, Standing Senate Committees, or the Student Body President. Nothing in this order shall be construed to interfere with the authority of the Treasurer of the Association, Finance Commission, Student Senate, Standing Senate Committees, or the Student Body President. This commission shall serve as advisory commissions and shall not hold any final authority reserved for the Treasurer of the Association, Finance Commission, Student Senate, and Standing Senate Committees, or the Student Body President. As it relates to the Ratigan Student Center and the Board of Student Publications, nothing in this order shall interfere with the authority of those boards. This order shall be filed with the Association's office, added to the record, and shall become effective upon filing and remain in force until rescinded by the President of the Association, or following other procedures. This order shall become executive law and special order to remain beyond session. EO-68-026, amending the Health and Wellness Commission. Whereas the quality of campus life plays a critical role in student engagement, well-being, success, and sense of belonging, and is shaped by co-curricular experiences, campus climate, and the collective efforts of administrative units. And whereas it is essential to establish a collaborative student-centered advisory body that elevates student voice, promotes cross-campus coordination, and provides strategic guidance to institutional leadership on matters affecting the overall campus experience. And whereas the Student Government Association serves as a vital role in representing student interest, including the oversight of student fees, which are entrusted resources intended to support and benefit the student body. The need for consistent and regular review of student fees is necessary to promote transparency, accountability, and informed decision-making regarding the allocation and use of those funds. Now, therefore, pursuant the authority vested in me as president of the association by the Constitution and laws of the Wichita State University Student Government Association, I hereby direct and order the following. Act 1. Amend EO-63-011, establishing the Health and Wellness Commission as follows. Section 5. Health and Wellness Commission. The Health and Wellness Commission exists to advise, guide, and improve the quality of student wellness by bringing together students, staff, and administrators to address the issues that affect students' daily experiences, including coordination and identity long-term service needs. The Health and Wellness Commission shall advise the executive branch on areas relating to and offered by departments on campus relating to this section. The Health and Wellness Commission shall exercise student fee oversight, authority over the following student fee entities: Student Health Services, Counseling and Psychological Services, Hope Services, and Student Outreach Services. The Commission shall hold the recommendation authority of the Health and Wellness fee. The following individuals shall make up the Commission and shall retain speaking and procedural privileges: the Vice President of the Association serving as Chair, the Treasurer of the Association, the Speaker of the Student Senate, a Chairperson appointed by the Speaker of the Senate, a Cabinet Director appointed by the President of the Association, 2 Senators appointed by the Speaker of the Senate, 2 members of the Finance Commission appointed by the Treasurer of the Association, and 2 members of the Association appointed by the Vice President of the Association. The following individuals shall make up the non-voting members of the Commission: the directors or designees of the respective units listed in 9C, and the association's advisor or a designee. Act 2. Authority of the Treasurer of the Association, Finance Commission, Student Senate, and Standing Senate Committees, or the Student Body President. Nothing in this order shall become construed to interfere with the authority of the Treasurer of the Association, Finance Commission, Student Senate, Standing Senate Committees, or the Student Body President. These commissions shall serve as advisory commissions and shall not hold any final authority reserved for the Treasurer of the Association, Finance Commission, Student Senate, Standing Senate Committees, or the Student Body President. This order shall be filed with the Association's office, added to the record, and it shall become effective upon filing and remain in force until rescinded by the President of the Association or following other procedures. This order shall become executive law and special order to remain beyond the session. Lastly, EO-68-027, designating authority to the Scholarship Commission. Whereas the quality of campus life plays a critical role in student engagement, well-being, success, and sense of belonging, and is shaped by co-curricular experiences, campus climate, and the collective efforts of administrative units, and whereas it is essential to establish a collaborative, student-centered advisory board that elevates student voice, promotes cross-campus coordination, and provides strategic guidance to institutional leadership on matters affecting the overall campus experience. And whereas the Student Government Association serves as a vital role in representing student interest, including the oversight of student fees, which are entrusted resources intended to support the benefit the student body. The need for consistent, regular review of student fees is necessary to promote transparency, accountability, and informed decision-making regarding the allocation and use of those funds. Now, therefore, pursuant the authority vested in me as president of the association by the Constitution and laws of the Wichita State University Student Government Association, I hereby direct and order the following. Designate authority to the Scholarship Commission. The Scholarship Commission already exists under Article 15, Chapter 1, the Scholarship Commission shall advise and hold limited student fee oversight, authority over all educational opportunity funds approved annually, including the Student Digital Toolbox. authority of the Treasurer of the Association, Finance Commission, and Student Senate, standing Senate committees, or the student body president, and nothing in this order shall be construed or interfered with the authority of the Treasurer of the Association, Finance Commission, Student Senate, standing Senate committees, or the student body president. These commissions shall serve as the advisory commission and shall not hold any final authority reserved for the Treasurer of the Association, Finance Commission, Student Senate, standing Student Senate committees, or the student body president. This order shall be filed with the Association's office, added to the record, and shall become effective upon filing and remain in force until rescinded by the President of the Association or following other procedures. This order shall become executive law and special order to remain beyond the session. That is the end of the messages.
Thank you. We will now go to President Wong for her message for the Student Senate.
Good evening, Senators of the Association. Pursuant to the authority granted to me by the Student Body Constitution under Article 3, Section 4, I have decided to veto AR-68-014, an act to consider the adoption of an A+ grading designation at Wichita State University. I am vetoing this resolution on the grounds that it would not provide clear, consistent support for Wichita State students. A+ as an honorary title would not be transferable to other state institutions within Kansas and would fail to benefit our students as such. Additionally, the survey results provided show that the option for the A+ to serve as an honorary title was the least popular option. While the resolution had good intentions, having an A+ as an honorary title can be confusing to both students and faculty with limited impact on a student's actual GPA. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll now move into Section 5, messages from the Finance Commission.
The Commission has reviewed additional organizational funding requests submitted by student organizations. Allocations were determined in accordance with SGA funding policies and eligibility requirements. For organizational funding this past week, the Commission allocated funds for one application. The Commission funded the Muslim Student Association for $2,986.21. This recommendation reflects the organization's compliance with SGA funding policies and their contributions to student engagement and development. That is it for my section. I'll now yield my time to Luke.
Good evening, Senators. I want to give you a quick brief on some movement in the appropriation space as we wrap up the session. We are currently in the middle of a major upgrade to our RSO card system. We are moving away from the physical cards and transitioning into a digital system through Commerce Bank that supports Apple Pay and Google Pay. This is going to be a huge win for our RSOs in terms of efficiency and ease of use. However, we've hit a hurdle. We planned for a 1-week spending freeze to switch systems, but we're currently on contractual delays with General Counsel that have extended the timeline. This means that the old cards are offline, but the new system isn't live yet. For the rest of the fiscal year, RSOs will not be able to use the prepaid cards to process appropriations transactions. To keep our RSOs moving, we've authorized 2 primary workarounds. First, pre-approved reimbursements. Students can use personal cards and get reimbursed, provided that they get my sign-off before they spend the money. Second, we will offer check requests. This is our preferred route for larger expenses like registrations or invoices. I know this isn't the seamless transition we aimed for, but we are pushing hard to get the legal hurdles cleared. We're committed to making sure every RSO can access their money, and I'll keep you all posted the second that we have a green light on the new cards. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move into Section 6, messages from the agencies. We didn't have any submitted messages, so we will now move into Section 7, recognition of the February Senator of the Month. Good evening, everyone. I hope your day is going well. You might be asking, why am I presenting the February Senator of the Month in March? We are presenting this February Senator of the Month a little bit later as some of our legislative affairs meetings were moved around due to the student fees process, in addition to a couple meetings that were mostly focused on student fees and some of the concerns we had there. So that's why we pushed it back to this week to save time on some of our other deliberations and conversations as well. But for today, I am proud to recognize this senator for their contributions for the different legislation that they've been working on, in addition to a lot of the collaboration conversations as well. This senator has been working on legislation pretty consistently throughout this session. Today, you'll see a couple of their first reads as well. But I'm proud to recognize Abby Otten as the February Senator of the Month. But if you could come up and accept your certificate and gift card as well. And next week, we'll do the March Senator of the Month. We will now move into Section 8, 3-minute floor speeches. In lieu of senators using public forum as a mechanism to address the Senate, any senator may seek recognition to give a speech on a subject of their choice, not exceeding 3 minutes in duration. 3-minute speeches are focused on specific topics. Senators may only hold the floor once during this period. Are there any senators that wish to speak at this time? I'll go to Senator Mallard.
Hello, everyone. I'm coming here today to talk about something that I have talked about in the past, which is the smoking on campus. As you are well aware, that an individual wrote in an opinion piece in the Sunflower about allowing, God forbid, I need a cig, allowing students to smoke on campus, but I want to give a little bit of background on this too. In the past, the Sunflower has had ads in the Sunflower talking about students it's not promoting, it's just having an ad, and you're allowed to have ads, right? And this is something that I worked with the Sunflower a year ago. But this is a problem too, because after that was posted, individuals started postering on campus, which is a violation of our student code of conduct postering policy. As you're well aware, Wichita State University is a tobacco-free campus based off of policy 1111. And I just want to point out a few comments that were made in here that I think do very much so tie to us here in student government. And one of the biggest things that I saw was, and I'm just gonna read the whole thing, we could potentially be studying while we sit outside having a smoke. I'm sure campus authorities would love to see more people sitting on the lawns of campus just like in the movies. Well, first off, why has no one come to student government asking us for more park spaces? Why has no one come to us asking for more benches, for more areas for us to sit if that's the case? Students, and if you were in some of my previous legislation, have heard about it, students complain about people smoking and it traveling all throughout, and people complain about people smoking at the bus stops, and that's why they're not outside, because people are smoking. Also, stating that it's not encouraging harmful behavior, these businesses that are coming to campus are giving a student discount, which is promoting the sale of these illegal substances to our students and providing a 10% discount. So I believe a lot of these statements do not fully align with the student body, as we are a tobacco-free campus, not against the individuals who are smoking, but for the health and safety of our students. And even stated in the rebuttal of, I believe it's this sessions, people are going to do it anyways. Yes, if people are smoking right now, it's not a major crime, right? The police aren't going to arrest them, and nothing's going to happen. They'll at least tell them to stop. But if we allow individuals to smoke on campus and we give them designated areas, we're definitely going to see an increase of individuals who will be smoking on campus. And I'm hoping in the future that we can work more to promote the health and safety of our students, because that's what we're here to do. There are a lot of students on campus who have been greatly affected by this. I will also say that we have signages in front of all the parking lots, and I'm hoping next semester to do more work on my resolution that I worked on last time about increasing our signage. But I believe I'm getting pretty close to time, so I am going to end. But that's the gist of what I wanted to talk about. So.
Are you standing for questions? Are there any questions for Senator Mallard? Senator Austin?
So since the article was written, have you spoken to some of those students that were possibly affected by smoking to see if that kind of drove some more conversation for those students in particular?
Yeah, so in the past, I have brought up how there was at least two people. I'll bring up two. I'll try and keep it brief. One person who recently actually had heart surgery a few weeks ago. They were in a dorm where their roommate had smoked, and that almost sent them to the hospital. And if they were sent to the hospital, then the fees would they would have to pay a lot of money to be able to fix what had happened to them. A lot of people who also are affected by these things, it's not just cigarettes, but it's also vaping, because the particles are different. It affects them more. There was another individual who roommate who smoked weed and cigarettes in the dorm, and they were an RA, and they reported it. It took 8 weeks for nothing to happen. Housing was informed multiple times, and the full report was put in there, and the individual had even stated that they did smoke weed, and that was put in the report. And with the copious meetings that I had with housing asking why this person had not been removed, their reasoning was that they were not answering their emails. If we as an institution can't enforce our rules because someone isn't answering their email, that's not okay. And also, that person failed every single room check. At one point, I'd heard from other individuals that they had literal maggots growing in their room. But the fact that our standard is that we don't enforce policies because they're not answering emails is sad. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? I'll go to Senator Timms.
So on that note, these violations of policies, what do you suggest that we do?
One, I wish for a little bit more enforcement, be it from mandatory reporters, especially mainly faculty. I can tell you that there are also faculty who have smoked on campus, but other faculty won't report it. I do know of faculty who will leave campus to smoke, and that's great. I'm not here saying that I want everyone to stop smoking. If you do that, that's just another way to relieve stress. But we need to build some sort of better structure for enforcement. But nothing that academic probation. But I'd be for maybe they have to go to some sort of, I'm trying to think of the word, not remediation, but like a process that, to help them to understand why smoking is bad and go through the process to hopefully get off of smoking or vaping or all the other violations. There's a massive list of things that are not allowed that fall under smoking.
I'll take one more question. I'll go to Senator. Oh, okay, no more. Are there any more questions? Okay, Senator Lee.
So, you're going to talk about signage. I would like to know what that signage stuff is.
Okay. Yeah, so last semester I talked about, we approved a no smoking signage, so increasing signage around campus. I'm hoping for next semester to bring it back, and with that I'm going to meet with maintenance first to see what signs they already have, because there are different signs per campus. West Campus has a different sign than, I believe it was Linquist, and there's one other building that also has a different signage. So we have signages on buildings, but they're all different. But there are also a lot of buildings that just do not have signages. So first I want to reach out to maintenance. That way then we can see if there is a cost, if they already have them, and then also seeing if there's other departments that we have to reach out to. And then we can start the hopeful implementation of signage in front of all the entrances and exits to buildings.
Okay, that concludes the time we have for questions. Thank you. Are there any other senators that wish to speak at this time? Senator Parker.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to let you know that Spectrum and Solar, the Shocker organization for LGBTQIA+ advocacy and research, are holding their vigil for victims of ICE violence tonight from 7 to 9 p.m. in Grace Memorial Chapel. This event is being held to honor and reflect upon the victims, families, and livelihoods affected by ICE. Thank you.
Are you standing for questions?
Yes.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Are there any other individuals that wish to speak at this time? Okay, seeing no more, we'll move into section 9, public forum. Public forum provides a chance for individuals to have the privilege of speaking before the Senate, limited to 3 minutes only. This is a time for the Senate to listen to what the community has to say, and to that we offer our undivided respect and attention. I would like to remind everyone that, although we allow the speakers the privilege to use this platform, the opinions of the speakers do not reflect the opinions of the association. Are there any individuals that wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into section 10, introductions and reports, and we will now move into 10.1, report from the executive branch.
Hello again, everyone. So Student Body President Wong has continued work across several key areas, including student fees, the VPSA search process, and ongoing university administration meetings. Additionally, preparations for the SGA banquet are underway, and also preparing for the student fees budget presentation to the Kansas Board of Regents in May. For me, over the past few weeks, I have been involved in Swipe Out Hunger meetings, K-Board debriefs, and university administration meetings as well. I also finalized meetings related to the Fridge project. Additionally, the Freshman Leadership Council is planning their final event of the semester, as well as preparing for their other meetings. Student Body Treasurer Bum attended an esports collaborative meeting with President Wong discussing potential reorganization initiatives. Individual funding has also now closed, with 2 individuals currently waitlisted, and summer funding applications will open on May 9th and will include both organizational and individual funding opportunities. Director of Legislative Affairs Ahrens has been updating the legislation tracker and will provide more detailed policy updates following the legislative update meeting. Director of Media Relations Zhang is currently planning the final 3 newsletters for the session. Director of Community Engagement Outreach Gracia Alvarez has been working on the SGA Connect dashboard, and upcoming events include the SGA Connect on April 8th in the Shocker Success Center and Pause and Boba that will take place on April 15th in the RSC from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Director of Health and Wellness Raju has been booked and busy this week due to Wellness Week. Tomorrow is the final event, which includes bouquet making and larches from 12 to 2 p.m. in the North Patio. Director of International Student Affairs Safdar has finalized the logistics for the KLC Leadership Training, which is on Wednesday, April 8th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. in RSC 265. Director of Transfer Student Experiences White distributed his transfer student survey, and results are currently pending. He also is preparing for tabling that is also scheduled for April 14th and 16th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Undergraduate Student Advocate Island has managed 3 cases recently, primarily focused on academic appeals and program dismissals. And lastly, Graduate Student Advocate Abdullah has successfully closed an active case and is currently exploring ideas for an end-of-semester event for graduate students. Are there any questions?
Thank you. And if you have questions about messages from the Finance Commission or messages from the President, now is the time to ask them as well. Are there any questions for Vice President Nguyen? See none, thank you. We will now move into 10.2, report from the Speaker of the Senate. So good evening, everyone. I hope your week has been going well so far. For me, I just have a couple brief updates for all of you. For today's Senate agenda, we have 10 pieces of legislation for Senate review. The one that is going before the Senate for a second read is SB-68-156, an act to amend the association agencies, which is the second and final read with a simple majority vote threshold. In addition to that, we have several first reads. One first read that I would like to note is SB-68-167, an act to approve funding for the Shocker Fridge program. For that legislation, I uploaded additional resources for that legislation within the SGA teams under the legislative packet and Senate resources with some additional information for Vice President Nguyen. So if you want to take a look at that, you may do so. Additionally, I uploaded a resolution AR-68-017, a resolution to appoint Senator Andrew Beam as the interim academic affairs chairperson. I will make a motion before we move into the consent agenda to add that to the consent agenda for consideration as well. Additionally, we have for the funding legislation, I have deemed it timely as I believe we have the information that we need to vote on SB-68-167 for a first and final read as well. In addition to that, we have several SGA events coming up this week and in the next few weeks as we finish off this session. If you go to the Senate notification email that I sent out yesterday, the links for most of those events are on that email. Additionally, Advisor Madison, Advisor Nolan, Advisor Fonseca have been also posting those links in the Senate group me as well. I would highly encourage you all to sign up for those events if you are available, as it greatly helps SJ leadership in managing those events. For the SJ send-off event, I'll also send out a memo making it a required event. So if you want to get ahead of that sign-up, I would encourage you to do so for that as well. Additionally, if you wish to schedule a one-on-one with me for the rest of the session, please reach out to me. I know for the past few weeks, weekend, I got really sick, so I'm catching up on different emails. So if I haven't followed up with you about something, please reach back out to me as well. Additionally, later this week, I'll be sending an email to each senator just about their absences and unexcused absences for this session. Some senators are really close to either the 9 excused absences or the 3 unexcused absences. So if I got something wrong within the records, please let me know so I can make sure that is right from our end, from the committee's standpoint, from an event attendance standpoint, and for the committee of the whole and Senate standpoint as well. Finally, within the next few weeks, it's really important to pay attention to the deadlines for the Friday calendar invite, as I mentioned within the Senate committee reports. For those pieces of legislation, there are a couple deadlines for emeritus status and submitting legislation for one first and final read. So if you have any leftover legislation, please be aware of those deadlines as well. But that concludes my report for this week. Are there any questions for me that I can answer? Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll now move into report from the Senate chairpersons, and we'll hear first from Senator Andrew Beam subbing in for Chairperson Kasir Safar.
Good evening, Senators. I'm Senator Beam, and I'll be filling in for Chairperson Kasir Safar while she's gone. I know we have a lot on the agenda this week, so I'll keep it pretty short. In academic affairs, we discussed our next steps after the veto of the A+ legislation. We also discussed possible changes that we want to see in the next session's committee structure and legislation ideas we have for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Senator Beam? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear the report from Diversity, Empowerment, and Inclusion Chairperson Peng.
Hi everyone, I hope your week has been going well so far. Not much to report from me. In committee tonight, we had gone over Senator Arteaga's long-awaited international mentorship bill, which is on the Senate floor tonight. Just wanted to give her a small shout out. I'm excited for you to see all this hard work that she put into this bill since the beginning of this semester. She's been working on this bill through winter break as well as spring break, so I'm excited for you to see all that work. With the session wrapping up in committee, we had also gone over our weekly goals that the senators would like to start on in the new session, but also gave updates on the goals they had set this past month. And that is all for me. I am up for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Chairperson Peng? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear the report from Government Oversight Chairperson Tawana.
Good evening, everyone. I have 2 updates. I had my one-on-one with President of Shockers vote last week, and I discussed the AR which failed in Senate, which not failed, tabled indefinitely, regarding having an holiday for election days. And in that AR, we had like section 2 regarding rights to the polling stations, and they pretty much agreed on collaborating with SGA if that resolution gets picked up in the next session or in the future. So they're on board for that. Other than that, last week I presented a bill, SP-68-163, an act to amend the SGA bylaws to establish the Director of Student Transfer Experience position, as that was an executive order, and once the session ends, that position will be automatically added into the bylaws because it was an executive order. So based on that information, I don't think we need to have voted it on in Senate. So I officially withdrawn that from the agenda this week. So that bill will not longer be up for second read during this session. And other than that, during committee, we have like 5 bills from our committee members tonight, so we just went over that discussions in the committee meeting today. So does anyone have any questions for that?
Thank you. Are there any questions for Chairperson Tawana? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear the report from Student Services Chairperson Hansen.
Good evening, everyone. My report is on the shorter side tonight. My committee has been hard at work these past few weeks in order to submit legislation to be passed before the rapidly approaching end of the session. Our committee passed 2 pieces of legislation unanimously tonight. Senator Tims's an act to prioritize the coordination of WSU and USD 259's inclement winter weather policies, and Senator Hatch's an act to amend the Student Bill of Rights. Additionally, 2 of our senators, Senator Miller and Senator Winslow, will be introducing their bills for their first read later tonight. Chief Schroeder was also kind enough to take the time out of his night tonight to speak on behalf of Senator Winslow's legislation. So we are very grateful for that and UPD's willingness to work alongside the Senate in order to better the campus experience in general. I am very excited to see what all 4 pieces of legislation will yield if it fully passes, and I hope that the rest of the session reflects the same drive. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Chairperson Hansen? Seeing none, thank you. We will now move into 10.4, report from the central office.
Hello, everybody. There we go. That was adorable. Just a couple things. The office is currently busy producing all of the reports that were required by the student fees bill. We are wrapping some of those up, as some of them are due before the end of the session, so we'll be sure to share those out to be in compliance with our student fees bill. I don't have an update yet on the signature of that bill. It's still processing the internal side, and then it will be sent over to the president's office for signature here shortly as well. A couple things, just a reminder about elections. The commission, in partnership with the Sunflower, will host a final presidential and vice presidential debate tomorrow night, April 2nd. This will be here at 6 p.m. in 233 or live on the YouTube. And just a reminder, the elections will kick off on Monday, April 6th at 8 a.m. Please make sure you share that information with your peers on how to vote. Of course, don't tell them who to vote for, but how to vote. There's also information on the SJ social media about in-person voting, as well as information about what's on the ballot, just in case students have any questions about that, especially relating to the 3 constitutional amendments that they'll be voting on as well. We are required by the SJ bylaws to notify the Senate of any new student organizations that have been approved. We have one. The Shocks Westie Swing is a student organization dedicated to bringing together individuals interested in West Coast swing dancing. I don't know what that means, so don't ask me that. The organization aims to create opportunities for members to learn and practice dance, foster connections among students from different academic disciplines, and encourage light physical activity in a fun and welcoming environment. A few things from the Shocker Sport Locker. They have hired 3 new student assistants that are currently being onboarded with some transitions we've had with students who have gone on to some internships and other opportunities, so we're excited to welcome them. And a couple things as we prepare for the transition of session. Please make sure that you paid attention to the information that Speaker Fawn mentioned in committees today about the final deadlines for bill submissions. Those are important, and those are what the dates are, so just a reminder to that. After tonight, we only have 3 meetings left. That means we have 3 weeks left together in this session. As I continue to remind you all, finish strong, and remember that time is of the essence, especially with some of those deadlines of things that you still want to work on. The physical SJ office down the hall will be closed starting April 15th as we prepare for the transition. That means that the front door will be locked as leadership will be moving out of the office that day. They will have access to their SJ email, so if you need anything from them, please email them. They'll also be working either out of 216 or in 208 as they finish up their terms. We did open the SJ scholarships earlier in March for 2027. Those are due May 1st. This includes the summer scholarship, the SJ Endowed Scholarship, and the International Student Scholarship. And later on this summer, the Dreamer Scholarship in partnership with SLB will go live. And then just a reminder for, because it's important to share dates, the Student Hardship Fund will close on that's crazy. On April 24th, which is a Friday, as the transition begins at that point as well. So just a reminder on that. And then I know Luke mentioned this earlier this year, or earlier this semester, but SJ's fiscal year ends on May 5th, that's the last day for any appropriation groups to also spend and have access to their dollars for the year as well. And that is all that I got, unless there's any questions.
Are there any questions for the central office? Seeing none, thank you. And before we move into section 11, one thing I forgot to mention in my report, I got a couple questions about presidential vetoes. So if senators wish to overrule the supervised president veto, a Senate resolution must be written to do so within 7 days since today's announcement. So if you write a Senate resolution, it must be submitted to me and Advisor Fonseca by Friday at 5 p.m. on the normal legislation deadline. Or if you don't submit in time for that deadline, you have to suspend the rules to place that legislation up for consideration for that veto as well. And if you have more specific questions for me about that afterwards, after Senate, or if you're writing one, just let me know and I can walk you through what that looks like as well. In addition, before we move to section 11, I will make a motion. So I'll move to add AR-68-017, a resolution to appoint Senator Andrew Beam as the interim academic affairs chairperson. And this is also uploaded to the Teams. Is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Senator Otten, we'll move into the debate period for this item. So I'm going to speak on this motion. So I'm moving to add this to the consent agenda for consideration, as Senator Castillo-Sofar will be out of the country from today all the way till April 10th, but then the starting date is back when we go back in the office on Monday at the 13th. So by having Senator Beam serve as the interim academic affairs chairperson, he would be able to be compensated for reviewing all the meeting minutes, making the agenda for next week's meeting in that time period as well. Are there any, and also to clarify, this requires a 2/3 vote to place it on the consent agenda. So no unanimous consent motions. Are there any other individuals that wish to speak in the debate at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period to add AR-68-017 to the consent agenda for consideration.
Before we begin voting, 2/3 majority today is 20 and simple is 15. Voting is now open. With 27 yes, 0 no's, and 2 abstain, this motion passes.
We will now move into section 11. The consent agenda for consideration is AR-68-017. Are there any objections to the consent agenda? Seeing no objections, is adopted as such. We will now move into section 12, pending business. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-156, an act to amend the association agencies.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Hi, everyone. The Government Oversight Committee passed this piece of legislation. They didn't really have any questions. There have been no new updates since, so just here to answer any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions for President Wong? Senator Otten.
I think, so I do have a question, I will say. But I think there was some confusion during government oversight with one of the questions, so I'm hoping to better word it. In line 172, under section 5, we were wondering why there was a repeat in the exceptions statement, there's one sentence that is like starts with exceptions, goes on to line 174, and then that entire statement is basically repeated. So could you go into why that line in particular was repeated, if that makes sense?
Yes. So the exceptions to the Tier 3 maximum may be made at the discretion of the treasurer not to exceed 20,000. And then I believe the exceptions to the Tier 4 maximum may be made at the discretion of the treasurer of the association is what you're talking about.
You may clarify, Senator Austin.
So in the Tier 3 organizations, like Section 5, Part B, and then point 3, there's two sentences that say exceptions to the Tier 3 maximum may be at discretion to the treasurer of the association. And then it repeats, exceptions to the Tier 3 maximum may be at the discretion of the treasurer not to exceed $20,000.
Yes, thank you so much. So it should be exceptions to the Tier 3 maximum may be made at the discretion of the treasurer not to exceed 20,000. I believe that was just an error when putting that into the legislation. I see what the confusion is now, though. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions for President Wong? Seeing none, thank you. We will now move into the question period for this item. Not question period, debate period for this item. For this legislation, this is the second and final read and requires a simple majority vote to pass. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Senator Austin.
Yeah, so I move to remove the line that I just mentioned in my question. So the Section 5B.3 would then read, Tier 3 organizations may request funding up to $10,000 made at the discretion of the treasurer. If that was the second sentence in there, it moved.
I don't think you'll need to make a motion for that. I think it was just when we copied and pasted it from the bylaws, I think it just doubled it there. So I went ahead and took it off. So
Okay.
it reads exactly how you said it, but I think that was your grammatical error, so I don't think we had to do the whole motion to do that.
Perfect. Thank
But
you.
thanks for catching that.
Advisor Fonseca, do we need to have that motion rescinded, or?
I would say because it wasn't seconded, that you don't even have to do anything else with it.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion? Seeing a second from Senator Lee, we will now move into the debate period for this motion. Would you like to speak on your motion?
I'm rescinding my motion because of the clarification from Advisor Fonseca.
Okay, the motion is rescinded. Are there any additional individuals that wish to speak in debate on the overall
Point of order.
legislation?
Does it have to be seconded by the person who seconded, right?
Advisor Fonseca, does the person who seconded have to agree to rescinding the motion?
Does not.
Okay. The motion is rescinded. We will move into the debate period for the overall legislation. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing none, we'll move into the voting period for this item.
Voting is now open. With 26 yeses, 0 noes, and 3 abstain, this bill passes.
We will now move into section 13, new business, and we'll move into 13.1. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-165, an act to create a University Police Department Advisory Board.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and do my little spiel about the bill first. Then I'm going to hand it over to Chief Schroeder to speak on behalf of this, more or less talking about cooperation with the police department that we've had on this. So I've been working on this legislation for pretty much this entire semester, really wanting to focus on some student concerns with the police department and having a way to alleviate concerns if any more or any new ones happen to be brought up. I'm going to go ahead and go through some things regarding the appointments, like why certain people are going to sit on the board. So with that being the 3 RAs, one from each member, or one from each dorm building, the suites, the flats, and Sharker Hall. Reasoning behind that would be for the students that live on campus. They're here pretty much 24/7, so they should have a really big say in what could happen with this police department advisory board. They're probably the ones that interact with them more so than other students. There is there are two majoring students majoring in political science or criminal justice. We added that because that would be a good experience for them in relation to their majors, and also with representation from general student population. We added the head of security for WSU Tech. This because like more cooperation with other branches of WSU is very important with us as well as being security related. We have one ex officio member appointed by the WPD Patrol North Captain. That was actually a suggestion by Chief Schroeder, as I originally had it as WPD Chief, which Patrol North, if you do not know, is right over there on 21st in Hillside. So they're more closer to us, and that is the reason behind having that. And then, sorry, I'm trying to find it here. Having 2 employees from the police department, we made it so that they cannot be part of the parking division, specifically because there is already appeals boards for parking services, and there's already ways to go about concerns with that. So we excluded those specific employees from this. And then everything else is pretty basic. We have the chairperson of the Student Services Committee, because this would generally fall under their jurisdiction per se. And then finally, I just want to read the very last thing. That would be section 1, subsection C. It shall be made clear that this board is not a board of/for appeals regarding arrest, citation, NTAs, or other criminal punishment served via the Wichita State University Police Department or any other governing body in relation to said department. I wanted to make that abundantly clear because I do not want any questions regarding that. It is not an appeals board. So if you get a ticket, this is not a way to go about fighting that. That's just something that was brought up in several conversations I've had with other people. And then just in general, I'm going to go over the 20% section. I know I had some questions regarding that, so I'm going to go over it very briefly, and then I'll let Chief Schroeder do all his talking. This was put in there mainly for a concern brought up by students that I've heard through conversations. Something that, whether it's not inherently negative, I want to point that out now, that is my belief, is not inherently negative. I am looking at amending this section in committee to make that more clear. Please let me know if you have any questions regarding that, but that is just something the Police Department Advisory Board could work to alleviate concerns regarding things with that section. So I just wanted to point that out. And now I'm going to yield my time to Chief Schroeder.
To remind me how to use this. You're good. All right. Good evening, all. Public speaking is not at the top of my list. That being said, one of the biggest things that comes to mind right off the top is the mission and values of the University Police Department, something that we established within the last 7 years. And a big part of that has to do with being a part of the educational process. It's hugely important that we be a part of the campus and not just the safety on campus. So when Jamie reached out to us in that process, it was a great opportunity. I've been here 12 years. We haven't had an opportunity to step in this door and have those conversations. Now we'll have an opportunity a couple of times a semester to sit down with students directly to have those conversations. We've tried the town hall meetings, they haven't worked. This is one of our best avenues in, and it was a great opportunity. I consider it a privilege to get an opportunity to be here. And I want to answer whatever questions you might have if there are. I will tell you that we bend over backwards making sure that we are pushing the officers out of the cars, into the buildings, talking to students, being a part of the process, faculty, staff included, the visitors on campus as well. So, that being said, I am more than willing to be a part of that collaboration process. The Wichita Police Department Community Policing Unit out of the North Station, the captain out of the North Station, feel the same way I do. And we're all in this together. Everything that goes on campus can be affected by what goes on the community outside of campus, and everything that goes on outside of the community on campus can affect the campus as well. I see Alicia Newell in the room. We have oftentimes left the campus to go check on our students. We have oftentimes left the campus to go meet the Wichita Police Department because they're out on some sort of a call with one of our students just last week. Those are regular occurrences, not necessarily criminal activity, but making sure that our students are safe, whether they're here or they may be some other part of the city. So with that, I want to keep it short. If you have a question for me, I'm more than willing to take your questions.
Thank you. Are there any? We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Chief Schroeder or Senator Winslow? Senator Mallard.
Since you're here and this was brought up, can you elaborate a little bit more on that 20% and what all that entails?
What that means is 20% of the time we are off the edge of campus making calls with the Wichita Police Department. That's what that means. That means we work in collaboration with the PD on a regular basis, meaning that should we have an issue here on campus and we need their assistance, they'll be coming to take care of that as well. In fact, we just got finished with an MOU process with the Wichita Police Department and the City of Wichita. That's gone through our General Counsel's office, gone through their legal part of the department with the City of Wichita. So we're in a good place. The MOU really didn't change anything that we did. It simply solidified the fact that we're all in this together.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Boyd.
So I have a question for Senator Winslow. When it talks about like criminal justice majors, what about the other criminal justice majors like forensic science, homeland security, the other ones that fall under the School of Criminal Justice?
Yes, that is an excellent question, and there has been, I talked to a couple senators in between when you originally brought up this question to me earlier in committee of the whole. But the main reason behind the criminal justice one being the major, or being the one that I chose, was because it really encompasses a lot of community policing, encompasses crime data, it encompasses also that police administration side. What you're talking about with like your homeland security or forensic investigations, it's a little bit less of that. It's a less like more looking at the community as a whole and more like specifically with, I'm going to go crime scene for this one because it's a lot easier of an explanation as of right now. It's really focusing on crime scenes. It's not much focus on how can we be involved in the community, how can we alleviate crime in certain ways, whereas criminal justice has some focus on that. And it's going to be the same thing with Homeland Security. It's a little more geared. It's a little too specific. I am open in looking at, there was another degree. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but it was something with law enforcement administration. I am looking into adding something like that or something where it's under the School of Criminal Justice as a whole. But as of right now, I'm going to stand by the decision of keeping it as criminal justice.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Miller.
This question is directed to Chief Schroeder. So I'm always really happy to see when members of the university collaborate with the student government in matters like this. I'd really love to hear about like maybe one of your goals that you have as a result of collaborating to form this advisory board.
I will tell you that Senator Winslow reached out to us. It was a great reach for me. It was an opportunity for us to be a part of the process here and in other parts of the campus as well. I guess, truthfully, the bottom line is to open the door, to be able to have conversations, whatever those might be, good, bad, indifferent, whatever the conversation needs to be, not be afraid to be able to ask questions, and if we can answer those questions, to be a part of that process. Just an opportunity to sit down with student government. I've been here 12 years. We haven't been able to get that accomplished. We're here, and my door's open, my phone's always on the hook, so I'm more than happy to be a part of that process.
Are there any additional questions? Advisor Fonseca.
Yeah, I think just want to kind of put out there because I think it's important for some from historical notion. So the Senate years ago used to have a committee called Safety and Student Services. It was the old version of what Student Services is today, and there used to be some work we did around. I can't remember what we called it. The little safety walk, yeah, that's what it used to be called, where we would work with like facilities and PD and other areas to look at like the safety of campus. I think one of the intentions of that committee was to work on some of these relationships, and so I think what I'm excited about this move is puts it a little more permanent and puts it in a different way to have much more activity in that space, because I think this has been a thing that we have talked about in Senate for a couple of years of, we hear the feedback from students about, issues or concerns they have, and we've never really had an avenue to figure out the best way to move through some of those things. And so I'm happy to kind of see that this conversation is coming back to SGA and putting some more intentional things in place. It isn't new for SGA in this capacity because we've had it in some form of iteration in the past. So I think that's an important context to know about some history as we continue to go through this. And then I did, Chief, if you can do me a favor, because I know we talk about this a lot, but can you share with them, when we talk about the jurisdiction of our police department, can you share what that covers when we talk about where PD plays into policing in this area?
Easiest way to describe it is using the Clery Act. We go across the street to the sidewalk on the opposite sides of 21st Street, 17th Street, Oliver, and Hillside. That doesn't mean that that's the only area we are. Biomed Center is in the middle of the process right now. A Metroplex up at 29th and Oliver, we're a part of that process. Shocker Studios, 3800 East Harry, we've been down there. If it falls within the jurisdiction of Wichita State, and we can get assistance from the other agencies to make the emergency call, whatever that might be, and I'll use NIAR as that example at 77th and 135. Park City is going to make that call, and then we're going to go follow up and finish it up in the process. The jurisdictional part of that process also includes that the officers have what's called a limited sheriff's commission, which means with the Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office. So we can go outside of this jurisdiction to take care of other issues. The example I can use for you there is we go down to the jail, serve somebody with a trespass order because we've had some sort of an issue here on campus. We find out they're in jail, we go down and serve those kind of orders. That's key because we want to keep our folks here as much as we possibly can. If I let them step outside of that too far, then we stretch our boundaries, and staffing being the way it is and being able to find good people to do this job it's a challenge these days. So we keep it as close to the chest as we can here. Biomed Center is going to have its own standalone security in that building. We'll just have to go down there should there be some sort of an issue that needs to be followed up with the district attorney's office, some sort of criminal activity that might be. Hope that helps.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Sahim.
This is a question for Senator Winslow. I was wondering if you were open to amending the specific line about the criminal justice and political science students to possibly not being restrictive to political science or criminal justice students, but noting a prioritization of those students. I feel in future sessions it might be interpreted in a way that it's completely restricted to just these majors, and if this opportunity could serve people outside of these majors or not in the specific criteria of criminal justice or political science who are interested in police, I don't think that we should have to be restricted to just serving those two majors. So my question is, would you be open to amending the specific line to include a prioritization of these majors, but not being restricted to them?
Yeah, so I will say I'll answer that in kind of two parts. One part, I am open to exploring any sort of amendment that is being brought up. Like I said previously with the 20%, again, with the criminal justice one, I am open to exploring amendments. As of right now, I will say I stand by how the bill is written in that regard. But that is not to say it will not change.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Mallard.
So for a lot of these, it says like the name of a group, and then it just says designee. So let's just say the president of the association or designee, the student services chairperson or designee, the president of faculty senate or designee. Are you anticipating that if, for example, the president of faculty senate can't serve, then they would designate? The president of staff senate can't serve, so they would designate? Or would someone else designate the position, or do we have to write that in more wording?
I would say typically how it's written within the bylaws and how we normally interpret it is if it says or designee, that person, the person, let's say the president of faculty senate or designee, we would typically find that it's someone else, and they would designate that it's someone else doing it as well. If Advisor Fonseca, you want to add it?
That's correct. The seat would belong to the person who holds it, and it's their discretion to either put them or someone else. We, in the student government, wouldn't determine who that designee would be because we've designated it to someone already.
So for like faculty senate, if they couldn't go, they would designate that someone else would go in their place. Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Boyd.
So I have another question. Instead of like doing just political science majors, what about people who have a minor in criminal justice, or students who have a law enforcement background and they have like a criminology degree, or like somebody who's like does like, say for, I give you an example, like I do military police in the reserves, and I'm not a criminal justice major, but I'm a criminal justice minor. Would you be open to like having something like that in your bylaws?
I'm going to answer that kind of similar to how I answered Senator Saheed's question. One, I'm going to bring up the point you made about the, you said you're a military policing, people with background in policing or having some sort of something like that. I'm going to specifically not want those people to serve on the student seat, specifically because we already do have 2 employees from the police department that are already serving in their law enforcement officer capacity. So I do want to make that clear that that is not who I want to be in the student seat. However, again, like I said, I am open to exploring amendments, but as of right now, I still stand by what it says.
Are there any additional questions? Senator Fouquet?
I guess, can you elaborate on why you wouldn't want people who are law enforcement focused to serve in this role?
I think we kind of answered that question a couple times. I would say so. I'm not allowing that question right now. Are there any additional questions? Senator Hatch?
If there's a similar position, say like at the biomedical campus to say the security at tech, would you be open to allowing them to also serve on the board? I know not right now, like a lot of those positions aren't necessarily ironed out, or if that's even going to be a position at the biomedical campus, but just allowing for more of those positions to maybe be created in the future.
Yes, I would be open to that as well. I say the only thing is we do have to look at the numbers, because I believe in our bylaws we do have to have majority students as a voting population, and right now that is a decently thin margin with this. I can't remember, I think it was by 1 or 2 being the majority students. So if we were to do that, we would just have to look at keeping the student majority, possibly turning some into ex officio like that head of security. But I'm definitely open to that if that were to come up.
Are there any additional questions?
If it's any help, part of this conversation, original conversation, is about this being a student government advisory board and us being there to back you up, if that helps. So you understand that we want to make sure that and the other part of it is we wanted to be careful about getting too big. Committees have a tendency to get really big. And that, a lot of times, though, it doesn't allow us to accomplish some of the things that we may want to get accomplished in the process. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. This legislation is referred to the Student Services Committee for review. We will now move into 13.2. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve AR-68-016, an act to address barriers to undergraduate research.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. So I work with Anastasia Marston in collaboration with the Undergraduate Research and Creative Activity Hub to distribute a survey amongst undergraduate students to ascertain the types of barriers that students were facing to undergraduate research. And what we found was that there was actually a fairly large population of students who were interested in undergraduate research, who felt that undergraduate research would help them out academically and professionally, but who had not had the opportunity to engage in undergraduate research for a variety of factors. We looked at two factors, which were the actual tangible barriers, and then also the barriers to students actually learning about undergraduate research. So you can see that what we found was that the most common barrier to undergraduate research was lack of time, followed by lack of awareness, then lack of guidance or mentorship, financial concerns, and then other. So all that this association resolution is trying to do is we're taking this data that we collected to the university, and we are offering a few suggestions as to how they might use that data to address barriers to undergraduate research. And I will stand for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Senator Miller? Seeing no questions, thank you. This legislation is referred to the Academic Affairs Committee. We will now move into 13.3. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-160, an act to establish a need-based higher education scholarship for rural students in District 1 of Kansas.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Good evening, everybody. I hope this session has been going well for you all so far. Before I get started, I want to thank my co-sponsors for this bill, Senators Thibodeau and Chairperson Tawana. The support for this legislation and the scholarship proposed has reassured me that this is a promising endeavor with the potential to deliver results to our university and future graduate students. Perhaps this is an obvious statement to make, but academics are a marathon, not a sprint. And some individuals are forced to start this marathon miles behind the starting line and are taken out by circumstances beyond their control before the finish line is in sight. For many students, including myself, the finish line is a higher ed degree, such as a master's or PhD. Unfortunately, there are far too many prospective students who do not get this opportunity due to financial concerns and hardships stemming from a poor job market, family issues, or medical emergencies. In an area where minimum wage is $7.25 an hour and secure, well-paying jobs are scarce, how can anyone reasonably expect residents of rural West Kansas to thrive and prosper? It is a well-known fact of modern life that higher education results in higher-paying jobs and therefore an improved quality of life. At the same time, obtaining said education has never been more difficult or expensive, rendering the task impossible for many. Alleviating the stressors communities of Western Kansas face requires an all-hands-on-deck approach by various levels of government, including those at a university level. This scholarship alone will not be the thing that saves rural America or rural Kansas, but it is a promising first step. My hope is that this legislation will not end here and will encourage future student governments at WSU to pursue similar goals for the benefit of our graduate students. I'll now stand for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the author? I'll go to Senator Winslow.
Yeah, so could you elaborate on the reasoning behind specifically District 1 of Kansas, as that is not necessarily the only district that includes rural places, as such District 2, specifically in the southeast, is decently rural as well, along with, I believe it is District 4, which is us. However, that includes portions of like Kingman County, which is also pretty rural.
Right. I just want to make sure, because I didn't clarify this in the language, we are talking about the congressional districts. So I just want to make that clear, and that's what you're referring to, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So the primary reason why I'm focusing on District 1 is, A, it's the largest section of Kansas. It makes up about 2/3 of the state, I believe. And 2, it falls victim to many of the pitfalls of rural life. For example, education deserts, or vast areas where there aren't any schools or universities for students to enroll in, is most common in District 1. Truth be told, Kansas is a very rural state by nature. I think we have a total of 105 counties. 95 of them are considered rural in the most literal sense possible. And this kind of builds upon what I was concluding with my speech, in that this is sort of just the starting point. And what I want to do is address the largest section of Kansas and work our way over to other rural communities, such as in District 1 and District 3, and as well as District 4 in Wichita. But for the time being, the main issues are here, I think, in the largest extent to District 1 of Kansas.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Mallard.
In your resolution, you talk about graduate or higher education, but then in your proposal for the scholarship, you mentioned higher education, but not graduate. Are you intending for the scholarship to only be for graduate students? Because technically higher education is undergraduate and graduate.
Yes, that was a mistake on my part. I should have clarified that, but it will exclusively be for graduate, such as master's and PhD programs.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Timms.
Yeah, so my question is, I think both populations of students, graduate and from District 1, are very much in need of scholarships, but I think those populations should be handled independently. So my question to you is why you're specifically targeting a very small demographic of students, which is graduate students from District 1, instead of tackling them independently?
Well, prior to this, I did do research on independent scholarships. A great deal of them are usually offered exclusively to undergraduates. So I'll give you an example. We'll do Wichita State, for example. At Wichita State, and this is per information on the website, around $30 million is rewarded to undergraduate scholarships annually. Now, compare that to about $4 million that's awarded to graduate scholarships. So a big reason why I'm targeting this one specifically is because of the disparity between graduate scholarship money and undergraduate scholarship money. Obviously, this isn't going to rectify the problem completely, but in the numbers I've been crunching, the amount given to graduate scholars, or graduate students, excuse me, is not proportional to the graduate student population. As someone who pretty much called every county in District 1 of Kansas to get information regarding scholarships, I can say that they're very few and far between, and as I said earlier, largely limited only to undergraduates.
Are there additional questions? I'll go to Senator Mallard.
This is a question for Advisor Fonseca. Would this possibly be a problem and fall under our diversity stuff due to the fact that we are sectioning off a section of Kansas and giving them a scholarship and not other individuals?
I think you're referring to the bill we passed, 144. It does not, because graduate students, we're not specifying an age here, so that doesn't violate that aspect because we're defining graduate. And the same with location is in one of the considerations. So at this time, I don't believe it will. Once we get into committee again with this next week, I'll double check to make sure that we're fine. But at my first glance and read of it, I don't think it will impact 144 at all.
And also, I would also concur with Advisor Fonseca, at least from what we have in 144, in addition to some of our scholarship language. To my understanding, it doesn't conflict when I look through the legislation. Are there any additional senators with questions? I'll go to Senator Timms.
Do you have data on how many graduate students are from District 1?
I have no idea how that happened. Y'all can hear me now, right? Okay, just making sure. But to answer your question, yes, there was a study compiled by KU that goes through educational attainment in Kansas by county. Now, this covers people 25 and over, which is the majority of the graduate population, and it covers a time span of 2019 to 2023. I can send you the document in particular. It is a lot, and if I cover all 105 counties, we'll be here for a very long time. But the numbers here, they show how many completed the degree, what percent of the population completed said degree, and they have it grouped in with graduate or professional degrees, bachelor's, some associates, high school, and less than high school. So by all means, I can send that to you or anyone else who is curious about this.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Mallory.
I believe that question might have been not answered in the correct way. I think what we're wanting to know is, do you have any data on how many individuals from Wichita State University are from District 1 and or through all of them, not the entirety of Kansas?
And before you answer, just for future reference, I wouldn't say phrase your question if the question wasn't answered the correct way. I would advise I didn't get the answer. I have more questions related to this topic, so just further clarification. But you may answer.
I think that's a totally valid question. I apologize if I didn't answer that in the way I should have. But specific to Wichita State University, I was not able to compile any data. I've talked with a few people on campus who maybe were able to do that, but either they are not able to give me the information or they haven't done so yet. I'm going to keep looking between now and the second reading so I can get more of that information, because I think that would be very helpful. But for the time being, no, I have not gotten any statistics on that.
Are there any additional questions? Seeing no more questions, thank you. This legislation is referred back to the Government Oversight Committee. We will now move into 13.4. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-164, an act to establish a framework for recording and reporting unfinished legislative initiatives of the Student Senate.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. So for this bill, SB-68-164, the idea initiated during my one-on-one with Senator Orton regarding how we can give a launch pad to the new session when they come in, especially the new senators who is their first time in session on which ideas they can pick up, especially with the timeline. Currently, we have a lot of unfinished legislations in the work and looking at the bylaws, we do not have any way of formalizing this process, so it happens every session. So with this language, we'll do is have the Speaker of the Senate or the central office presented, compile all the list of initiatives that weren't finished over the last session, and be presented during the first session meeting of the new session when it starts, so new senators can have some initiative to go through that. And yeah. And it will be shared on the Teams folder drive or whatever medium, whichever the next session takes up, be it Teams or any other form of media. That language compiles of that. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions from the author? Seeing no questions, thank you. On the agenda, original agenda that was sent out, I forgot to add the Senate action line. So the Senate action line says it will be referred back to committee, and the referred committee is, this legislation is referred to the Legislative Affairs Committee, so this will go before the Senate for a second read next Wednesday. We'll now move into 13.5. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-167, an act to approve funding for the Shocker Fridge program.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Before I dive into my part, I would like to first say thank you to Alicia, Noel, and Jamie for being here from the CARE team and also from Chartwells to answer any questions that you all may have at the very end as well. But can we please give them a round of applause before I officially get started? So good evening, everyone. Today I am presenting a bill to improve funding for the Shocker Fridge program, an initiative designed to address food access gaps on our campus and better support student well-being. While food insecurity at Wichita State has improved over time, it has not gone away. Recent data from the Campus Climate Survey shows that approximately 1 in 4 students still experience some level of food insecurity, meaning many students are consistently navigating limited access to food rather than experiencing occasional hardship. In addition to this, we are seeing a clear gap in late-night food access. Students who are attending evening classes, studying late, or heavily involved in campus life often do not have access to food once the RSC food court closes, which can directly impact their academic performance, focus, and overall engagement. The Shocker Fridge program is a solution that builds off resources we already have by redistributing prepared food from the RSC food court into accessible refrigerators where students can access it at no cost. This program will operate in partnership with Chartwell's Dining Services, who will oversee food preparation, safety compliance, stocking, and inventory management to ensure that the program is both safe and sustainable. It is also important to note that the initiative does not replace existing resources like the Kia Duggan Support Locker, but instead expands access by providing ready-to-eat food options and increasing availability across campus, especially during after hours. This idea has been explored in the past by Care Team and Chartwells, but was unable to move forward due to funding and infrastructure limitations, which this bill directly addresses. The total funding request is $60,000 from the special projects account, with $40,000 allocated for initial setup and equipment, $10,000 for IT onboarding and system integration, and $10,000 to support operational costs for the first fiscal year. The IT onboarding and system integration would be used to integrate the Shocker ID system into this program. This will mean that students will have to swipe their IDs to access the fridge. These funds are earmarked to fund the integration project. Whatever funds are not spent will be transferred back to the special projects account. This is an estimation to complete this integration. Implementation will be coordinated through the SGA Central Office in collaboration with Care Team and Chartwells to ensure proper vendor communication, placement, and oversight. Ultimately, this initiative is about supporting student success in a tangible way. We have the data, the partnerships, and the groundwork already in place. This bill gives us the opportunity to take action and better support our students. Thank you, and I am more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. And before we move into the question period, as I mentioned earlier in the report, 2 additional resources for this legislation have been uploaded into today's legislative packet under the Senate Resources folder that I created. With that, we'll move into the question period. Are there any questions for Vice President Lin? I'll go to Senator Hinojosa.
Thank you. I just really need some clarification on how exactly food that is produced in the RSC is going to go to the restaurants. At what times are the fridge going to operate? You say this is for students that don't have the ability, I suppose, to get food when those restaurants closed. Yeah, if you can just explain that a little bit more. Thank you.
That is a great question, which I will pass over to Jamie because she'll be physically handling it.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jamie Kreisinger. I am the Senior Director of the Dining Program. So starting with the hours. So the hours and the point of having the fridges in different locations is the accessibility of having the fridges open when the building is going to be open. So the fridges will be stocked with food that is potentially left over from Panda Express. Maybe it's Freddy's Chili, our caterings that we do a lot of times for events, fresh salads. So it'll be a variety of items. And so it won't be a consistent menu, but those items will be available whenever the buildings are open.
Are there additional questions? I'll go to Senator Haynes.
Yeah, so would this also kind of work in tandem with the, or not even, yeah, kind of either work in tandem or replace the, I can't remember what the exact name of it is, like the Shocker, like share a meal program. So like whenever there's like leftover food from like the catering stuff, if you're signed up, you would get like a notification that, hey, there's free food in a certain location. So does the fridge program either work in tandem? Would the fridge program work in tandem with that or kind of like replace that? What does that kind of look like?
Great question, AJ. So the program will actually be a subsidy of that. And so we're not taking anything away, we're adding to. And so when we're looking at food insecurity on campus, it's really important. What Amy pointed out is 1 in 4 students on our campus have identified having basic needs, food insecurity. And so when we started collecting this information in 2019, I added 4 specific questions to the campus climate survey to make sure that we're able to have a pulse on what our student needs are. We weren't previously collecting this information. So when we're looking at from 2019 to 2025, our most recent survey, we went from 38% of our students identifying having food insecurity to 29% because we're intentionally implementing these types of new initiatives. And so when Shocker Sure Meal, when staff goes home and there's different things, that's a staff person who's having to send out notifications, right? And so if we don't have a staff member on campus who's able to send out that notification, then this is an alternative option. If you look at the document that was is this uploaded? Okay. If you look at the document that was uploaded into, I created a report on page 2, number 2. If you look at the reduction in reported hunger on campus, it suggests that fewer students are reaching crisis levels because we've intentionally put in strategic plans within our student outreach and support team to address long-term food insecurity issues with students directly, but we're still seeing sustained rates of students who are skipping meals, as well as having limited access to food while they're on campus. So this is a phenomenal, you are solving a major problem with implementing this new initiative.
Are there additional questions? I'll go to Senator Sahin.
Hi, I just had a question specifically about the sign-in process for the fridge. Will it work on the same basis of the support locker where people have a token system to how many times they can sign in? Or is it in a limited process where they can sign in and take food as many times as they want or need?
Yeah, so the operations would look very similar to the Shocker support locker from my understanding, but Advisor Fonseca, if you want to jump in on that as well.
Yeah, I think as we prepare to think about how to launch, it will still have some very similar protocols we have in place with the locker because we've tried to tested that system so it worked. Because of the implementation of the ID, we'll be able to track some of that and kind of understand where are some of the uses going. I think the benefit of what Amy has been doing in looking for this vendor, we'll be able to know it's getting low or it's getting emptied, and we'll be able to know how to address that. I think as we start off, just like we started with the locker, we'll kind of test out the best way to determine, do we go as far as we are with the locker? Do we keep it a little more flexible and open, just as we kind of evaluate usage for that? And because of the system and the vendor we're utilizing, it will help us do that in real time. So I don't want to necessarily say that it will go the same process we're doing with the locker, but we'll utilize some very similar protocols we have in place, evaluate it as we kind of go through, and then kind of look at it from that sentiment before we make some permanent choices with that. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Are there additional questions? I'll go to Senator Taylor.
Yes, thank you. I really do like the idea behind this initiative. I think this is really great. But I do have to ask about what are the plans to accommodate students with dietary restrictions, both religious and perhaps medical, who are going to be accessing this program?
Yeah, so I think with the variety of different foods that would be stocked, there would also be labels onto what exactly is in the food, any allergens, any specific items that students cannot eat will also be placed in there as well. And so kind of like what Jamie mentioned earlier of the kind of a different rotation of foods, because you never really know what's going to be left over at the end of the night. Some days it might work, some days it might not, but if they continuously access, we'll also receive that data on the back-end side to further direct them to the care team and to direct them to more long-term sustainable resources outside if they're only relying on the fridge items as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that does.
Okay.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Mallard.
Yes, thank you for coming. My question is, so this is saying it's going to be housed in the Shocker support locker in the Success Center. If I'm not mistaken, this program will be housed, or if that's just
That means that when we SJ's program, they have to sit somewhere. When we talk about how the fridges won't be in the locker, the program, the staff out of the program, the resources out of the program will be the ones that will provide the operational support of it, but not specifically. And correct me if maybe this is correct, we're not putting one in the locker itself, just the staffing around the locker, the operations around the locker, the donor mechanisms we have around the locker will help support the initiative itself. That's when we talk about being housed, it will fit into that space for the more long-term operational programs with it.
Yeah, and I think, oh, sorry. The locations that we are looking at is the Radigan Student Center, the library, and also Woolsey. We've already had conversations with Kevin about placement in what the RSC would look like, and then still having those ongoing conversations with the Woolsey and library partners as well.
And then if I may, with the library, is that going to be in the 24-hour service area?
Yes.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Hatch.
I'm just going to preface this with I think this is a fantastic idea. I think that this does a lot of great things for students on campus. You mentioned that there's going to be like a swiping system for the ID. Is that basically the only tracking that's going to be done for the stuff that's coming out of the fridges? Like, we all know college students can be quite ravenous. Is it just going to be off of like an honor system to not like completely clean out the fridge when you swipe? How is that going to work?
Yeah. Advisor Fonseca, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, it will probably we'll probably have some signage on it, to take what you need, but kind of be respectful of it. It's the same sentiment we have with the locker itself, even though we have some more control in that space because we physically have staff there. When the locker first was established, it's about year 4, 5, and 6 afterwards, kind of was on an honor system, but I think we'll work on some signage into the space. The positive with the ID swipes and investing in that, we'll know if, I'm just going to pick on you for a second, if Andrew Hatch had signed or swiped into it and he took out 60 items, we'll know he did that, and then we might reach out to say, hey, we noticed this. Did you need additional support? You need additional resources. That this is just a temporary thing. But I think I would imagine some of the work we'll do and some of the signages will incorporate, the take what you need, be respectful for other folks who need this, who need this service and utilize this as well. We can't sit here and guarantee that Andrew Hatch won't do that. But we will hope to be able to know, okay, we know that he used it. We know he took out 60 items. Maybe we'll do some reach out to him, just like we do with students in the locker and other areas that we have this program around, and kind of see if there's more long-term support and help that student might need. I think that's where, Alicia comes in with the care team and doing some of that more outreach of, let's check in on Andrew to determine, was this just because Andrew did it, or was it because Andrew needs some additional help that this program can't provide in the more long term? So I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that it will be perfect in that circumstance, but we'll work on some things just like we do right now with the locker and the protocols we have in that place to address the more long-term support of the student if that situation comes up.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Parker.
Yeah, I just had a further question regarding allergens. For students who have allergies that are very severe, is there going to be steps taken to prevent cross-contamination between items in the fridge, and what would that look like?
Absolutely. So just like any of the food you all are served on campus, we have specialty trained cooks that prepare things daily. Those labels in our systems are going to be created and carried over, so everything will be clearly marked, and so all of those allergen components will be very well identified. So obviously if you're allergic to peanuts, just don't pick anything that will have peanuts in it.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Archimeno.
Hello, thank you for coming. I love the collaboration between SGA and everybody on campus. I appreciate your time. I just had a question. So we talked about, monitoring who's taking food out of these fridges in order to connect them to more long-term support. I'd just like to know who'll be the one tracking that. How often would that be checked on? Because I really don't want us to find out, at the very end of the semester, that somebody's been going there every night, grabbing all the food, and now, they left or something.
So one thing that we talked about was, what is that sweet spot? Do we want to have a referral if a student has utilize the refrigerator 3 times in 1 week, 5 times in 1 week. And being able to refer that over to the care team so that we can do an outreach to look at, is there long-term food insecurity that we need to address, instead of putting a Band-Aid on something that actually needs more intentional support. And so we're in the midst of trying to figure out what that number is, and then making sure that we're referring students over to the appropriate campus partners so that we can have that conversation. And sometimes it's just, hey, we have a lot of students right now who are living paycheck to paycheck, and hey, I don't get paid till this next week, so we do swipes for them over in the dining hall. And so it's just trying to track and seeing what that need level is, and then saying, hey, we've met with them, go ahead and let's continue to allow them to utilize the refrigerator.
And I'd say we probably will be, the way that the system will work is we'll get we'll be access the report as we need it. And so I would imagine, similar to what we do with some other things, we'll look at a weekly thing at the beginning and then send that information off as we need to. I think the beauty of it is we control what the information is, and we'll be able to utilize it as we need. And I think it's important to also recognize we only track the ID number. We'll refer that to figure out which student it is, but we'll get access to that report because it will belong to us to utilize as we need to do that.
And before we go any further, Advisor Fonseca, what is your guidance for the time limit of 9:30 today?
It's still 9:30, so you'll need to extend it if you want to keep going.
Are we good to extend?
David has a beautiful face on, but maybe let's not extend it too long.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Winslow.
This is probably more geared towards Treasurer Bum, but I just want to get some clarification on where the numbers are coming from. Like, did we get a quote for anything? Just stuff like that.
Yeah, so I sent over to Speakerphone the full detailed quote. It should have been uploaded into the Teams.
Are there
That is the quote.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Haynes.
Yeah. I guess just a general question. So what does this program look like for weekends? So we know like the RSC like food court, they're not open on weekends, and then or on Sundays at all, and then on Saturdays they're open for like limited hours. So what the dining hall like send their leftover food to stock the fridges and stuff like that? Just like a general question I had.
Yeah, so obviously overseeing all of the food service on campus and now concessions as well, we will be able to deploy kind of according to what we know we operate. Obviously not operating in this building. You know, tonight we have the women's NIT game over at concessions. We know that we can shuffle things over to the library, being more 24-hour focused. So we'll prioritize what and where our base, as well as holidays, and really utilizing those as an option. Excuse me.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Hinojosa.
Thank you. I'm just really wondering, have you considered the economic cost? I mean, at the end of the day, Chartwell's is a private business. I mean, all the restaurants downstairs are a private business. What's going to be the effect on them? What's going to stop someone from waiting until 7 or 7:30 and just going and getting something there for free? I do sympathize with those that, you know, have food insecurity, but these are private businesses at the end of the day. What if they pull out of this agreement and we're left with fridges that cost $60,000 that have nothing in them? Like, do we have any guarantees, or I'm just wondering on that.
Yeah, I think for food at the end of the night, right now, it would go to waste anyways. And I think genuinely the impact of this is for students that are impacted by food insecurity. I think besides economic costs, I think this is a really important one that we should be addressing because it's focused on food insecurity. And we would be the first institution to physically track the data when it comes to these fridges. I think the why behind this initiative I would say is really important when it comes to addressing these factors. And primarily for me, I'm not thinking about the economic pieces of why we're doing this. Yeah.
We also, we also, for those of you that, so at Chartwell's, if you aren't aware, we're a contract company here on campus. We just renewed, we're here for another 10 years. So for the next 10 years, we're committed to being here. So regardless of what happens well past you all's time, I'm committed to this project for the next 10 years, guaranteed. And yes, there is going to be a financial contribution to it, but regardless, to Amy's point, that food, we do composting on campus for some of our organic pieces, but the rice at Panda, the chili at Freddy's, the salads that come from the caterings, a lot of those pieces can't go to the campus gardens and be composted. And so to me, there's nothing better to do with it than to know it's going to be consumed rather than thrown into the garbage and to be used. And so for the next 10 years, I would much rather know that it goes to that use than to be thrown away. Sorry.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Hatch.
Yeah, so my understanding is the point of this is to fill in gaps for students that can't go access food or don't have the money to at the time. And a lot of the reasoning behind the placement for the fridges is to make them more accessible past times when food is being served. There are some students that have medical problems that make it hard for them to eat at certain times, like nausea that can go on throughout the day that can take them 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night before they feel comfortable eating and keeping that food down. Has there been any consideration to putting any of these fridges in any of the dorms, specifically to avoid students having to walk out in the middle of the night all the way to the library to try and go get food and things like that?
And so we actually piloted this, Jamie, a couple years. It's been
4 years.
Maybe 4 years ago. In the resident hall, it was in the flats and the suites over holiday break. And so one of the things we see is that those students don't need access. They have meal plans. And so we want to make sure that we are truly targeting students who don't have that access and need. And so if it's something of a medical condition and they need food, those students are connected to resources to make sure that we're able to get those accommodations to them, whether it's when I tell you there is no greater partner on campus than this woman right here. She and her team bend over backwards. If we have a student in the resident hall who is sick and they can't get out of bed and go downstairs to get food, I call her team and they will make sure that a plate or a tray is delivered to them because she's making sure that no student goes without food. And so I want to make sure that those things are being done behind the scenes, and a lot of folks don't know about it. But this primarily is really allowing us to target the students who truly do not have that access. And it's primarily our international students and it's our commuter students who live off campus.
Are there any additional questions? Senator Lee, and this is the last question.
So, point of information, special projects fund amount.
I would say let's wait until we move into the debate period for points of information regarding special projects. Are there any? I'll accept one more question. Is there any more questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Before we move into the debate period, I move to extend the meeting to 10:30 p.m. Is there a second? Seeing a second from Senator Naylor, 10:30. We will just move to the voting period for this item. With 26 yes to no, one abstention, this motion passes. We will now move into the debate period for this legislation. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Senator Lee.
Point of motion, how much money do we have? Point of information, how much money do we have in the Special Projects Fund?
Advisor Fonseca.
$785,000.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? I'll speak in debate, so I'll speak in affirmation of this legislation. I think this legislation, the funding that this legislation provides will help a lot of students on campus, especially with food insecurity. I think with the quotes that were provided, some additional context within the first read period, in addition to some of the statistics that are mentioned within the legislation, has my full confidence and support in the ability that it can serve the student body here on campus. Are there any other individuals that wish to speak at this time? I'll go to Senator Archimedo.
I am as well going to be speaking in affirmation of this bill. There were some previous statements made about concerns of abuse of the system, which, you know, there is some things around that, like waiting till that food becomes available after hours. But I feel like if they're willing to wait until that food is available in the fridges, that shows a different type of concern of the need that they actually need that food, more of a how would you say, malignant intent. So.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak at this time? I'll go to Senator Taylor.
You know, not to sound like a broken record, but I also speak in affirmation for this bill. As previously stated within the bill, the people most likely to be subjected to food insecurity are first-generation college students, those who are Pell Grant eligible. I am a member of both of those demographics, and although I am fortunately financially stable enough to where I myself have not suffered from food insecurity, both where I've grown up and people I know within college struggle with food insecurity weekly, and I think that this is one of the best proposals I've seen brought to Senate that was the most applicable to my own lived experiences. I really hope this bill passes. I think this is great work by the people behind it. Highest praise.
Are there any individuals that wish to make amendments or wish to speak in negation? Senator Hinojosa.
I will be speaking in negation. I know this is probably a very unpopular opinion, but I have to speak in negation. I simply cannot justify the cost of $60,000 with cut after cut to so many programs. At this point, why not just give random students, a cut of that $60,000, and hopefully they'll spend it at the RSC or something. I just can't. I imagine myself trying to speak to my constituents, and I just can't justify the cost. Thank you.
Are there any other individuals that have amendments or wish to speak in negation? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the debate period. We will now move into the voting period for this item.
Just to clarify, this bill needs a simple majority to pass. Voting is now open. With 27 yeses, 1 no, and 1 abstain, this bill passes.
We will now move into 13.6. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-168, an act to amend the SJA bylaws to restructure the Student Organization Council.
Is the authors here to speak? You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. So just to give context for this bill that's up for the first read, SOC was established 5-6 years ago before COVID, and at that time we didn't have a director of student organizations dedicated in the executive branch. At that time, the SOC had more than almost 200 members from representing all RSO presidents. But over the time, the interest in SOC has gone significantly lower. That for the last year, it hasn't even met once, and before that, the year prior, they couldn't even meet quorum. And each year, there have been changes to SOC, and none of them have worked so far. And based on the conversations I had with the director of student organizations and multiple conversations during committees, the best middle ground we could. One option was to get rid of SOC altogether, as it hasn't been effective, and shift all the responsibility of SOC to either director of student organizations or have one of the student standing committees dedicate one committee meeting each month to deal with RSO issues. But the other middle ground we could come up with was to have it more like a public forum or advisory forum where we market it out to RSOs, and the presidents or their designated members show up to those meetings and they raise their voices and concerns, which can be later dealt with through SGA policies, through legislation, and committees can take action. But as of now, with the proposed amendment language which we have proposed, there won't be an appointment process through Senate. There won't be a quorum required or an attendance record, and it will be act more like an advisory board instead of a committee. If anyone have questions, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. We will now move into the question period. Are there any individuals with questions regarding this legislation at this time? I'll go to Senator Haynes.
Yes, I was just wondering what the rationale was between, or I guess behind not having any kind of restriction on how many, so in line 57, yeah, on how many participants can be allowed in their on the student organization council, as opposed to like just X amount from tier 1, X amount from tier 2, X amount from tier 3.
Yeah, this was based on the past experiences and the feedback I got from previous members in ISOC. If we set up a fixed amount of members to that, they were having trouble even meeting quorum or having members sign up from those tier differentiations. So that's why we just got rid of the members quota and open it up to anyone who wants to join. So it doesn't have a fixed membership, just to avoid the quorum status or the attendance status based on.
Are there additional questions regarding this legislation? Seeing no further questions, thank you. This legislation is referred to the Government Oversight Committee. We will now move into 13.7. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-146, an act to establish an international student mentorship program at Wichita State University.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley, and I was given the privilege to work on SB 68-146, or as you guys might know it, the International Mentorship Bill. I want to start with a quick overview so we're all on the same page. This bill proposes the creation of an international student mentorship program. The goal is to pair incoming international students with experienced upper division mentors who can support them throughout the first year with regular check-ins, guidance, and workshops. Now here's why this matters. Wichita State has around 2,800 to 3,000 and more international students from over 100 countries, which is a huge part of what makes our campus diverse and strong. But at the same time, international students are often navigating a completely new academic system, environment, and culture all at once. And while we do have strong programs like Passage to Success, orientation, and other resources, those supports are often short-term or not always consistent throughout the year. So some students still end up feeling like they're figuring everything out on their own. This program is meant to fill that gap. Throughout structured mentorship, students would have a go-to person, ongoing support, and access to workshops focused on real challenges, like understanding academic expectations in the U.S., communicating with professors, and adjusting to life here in Wichita. The goal is simple: to improve student success, retention, and sense of belonging. And this is something I personally connect to. As someone who is out of the state and not originally from Wichita, I understand what it feels like to enter a new environment and have to adjust quickly. And while my experience isn't the same as being an international student, there were enough similarities that made me realize how important it is to have a strong support system from the beginning. That's what pushed me to write this bill. I also want to emphasize my credibility in this process. I didn't just come up with this idea on my own. I had the opportunity to sit down with one of the members of the International Student Affairs, the president of ISU, government oversight, and other important people involved. We had real conversations about what we expected from this bill and how it could realistically work. I'm really glad to say they were supportive of the idea and willing to help move it forward. We also talked about the future of the program, looking at ideas like, if not financially, incentives, possibly offering involvement-based or academic-style credit opportunities, similar to how some majors already offer additional credits. So this isn't just a short-term solution, it's something that can grow and evolve over time. And to address an important question, why focus specifically on international students? It's because international students face unique transition challenges, academically, socially, and culturally, that can directly impact their success and retention. This program is designed to provide targeted, consistent, and community-based support where it's most needed. If we already know that community-based programs at Wichita State are successful, then expanding that support to better serve international students is a natural next step. At the end of the day, this bill is about making sure students don't feel like they're navigating everything alone. And that's where actively building a stronger and more connected campus community. Because when students feel supported, they stay. And when they stay, they succeed. So I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period for this legislation. Are there any questions for the author? I'll go to Senator Hatch.
Yes, forgive me if this program's not still in circulation because of changes at the state level, but how does this specific legislation differ from the global mentor program that is still on the Wichita State website?
So some of the feedback that Senator Arteaga and I have gotten from international students, at least talking with ISU President Dion Samuel, is that that program isn't as, I want to say, reachable to international students, nor have they been very helpful for international students. So that's why we had came up with this bill, and we wanted to get the insight of more students, and with the support of ISU, as well as talking to more students, we feel like this is a more approachable approach that students can use in that sort of way.
I'll allow Clerk Thompson to provide further clarification on the difference.
So the Global Mentorship Program was initially made for transfer exchange students who only stays in Wichita State for about a year or a semester, while I think this mentorship focuses on the international students who will be completing their bachelor's or master's degree with us.
Are there any additional questions? Senator Timms?
Is this program for all incoming international students, or is it like on an opt-in basis?
That's what we're hoping for all incoming international students, in a way, it's futuristically speaking of how it would happen, as in if it's a mentorship program, we would have some type of survey or some type of, it's like you getting a job. So you would get interviewed to see if you would be okay with sharing all of one part of your life to another person you've never met before. So hopefully people are up for that, but it is open to all incoming international students. It's just depending on who wants to be part of it, actually.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Taylor.
Kind of expanding on the last thing that we, my bad. Sorry, kind of expanding on the last question. What is the selection process like for the mentorees that would be helping mentor incoming international students? And what would the process be like for training those people? Because it's detailed within the legislation that they are trained, I believe.
Related to your question, are you asking about the process of the mentors or the mentees?
Oh my bad, mentors.
Mentors, okay.
Mentors.
So originally we had talked about doing it with upperclassmen who had gone through the same thing that they would be going as of coming to Wichita State. I thought it'd be an even better idea slash solution to have people who have already experienced something similar, only because I've seen it firsthand, and I did want to get people involved who have first experience of what it's like to just be out there with no connections and no people you know and how to do certain things. So in a way, like I said previously, it's going to be in like a survey, some sort of relay to ask questions and interview. And it's something I was thinking about doing during a summer, to cast interviews and go through that whole process, the training. So nothing would be not understandable. Does that make sense? Like, in a way, it's just to prepare everybody and everything so everything goes as planned without anything being untouched or unturned.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Phillips.
So with this mentor program, would you be able to give a number for how many students the average mentor would be working with on a semester basis?
On a semester basis, I wanted to keep it very small. I didn't want to expand socially big. I wanted to start off pretty small, maybe like 1 to 2, because I know at the end of the day we're all humans and we're not all capable to keep track of more than 3 to 4 things a day. And specifically if it's something that I'm willing to do annual, monthly, with the check-ins and the data accumulation, stuff like that. So I was willing to keep it very small, between 2 to 4, only because I know that we're all students and we all have lives to get back to after we're done with programs like these. So yeah.
Are there any additional questions? Seeing no further questions, thank you. This legislation is referred to the Diversity, Empowerment, and Inclusion Committee. We will now move into 13.8. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-159, an act to create student organization tier check process.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Bear with me for a few more minutes, but I've stood up here talking about student organizations before, and so I would like to continue some of that process. RSOs are required to submit annual reports to provide information to the student body treasurer regarding any expenditures, goals, objectives, even programs that they host. I did provide at the very bottom of this legislation the form that RSO leaders were required to fill out during the fall semester. We have had a lot of discussions regarding student organizations in my committee, and I'm planning to have some follow-up conversations regarding this annual report and the current legislation that I have written. Just those conversations with Advisor Fonseca regarding some more information, specifically within what RSOs already provide to the sub office and the student body treasurer. However, no matter what, I think that having some more kind of indication on what this annual report looks like is a really good idea to define more of what goes into this. In addition, adding in some more of that context and documentation for the annual report will, in hopes, allow Tier 2 organizations looking to move up to that Tier 3 status to start providing that documentation for the conferences and competitions that they are attending, in hopes for them to apply for the Tier 3 organization status for appropriations, and in the end being able to support more students attending those conferences and competitions. And with that, going into the annual report, then it'll all be in one place. Of course, I mentioned more further conversations will be taking place in hopefully the next few days with Advisor Fonseca, but if you guys have any questions, I will take those.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions from any senators? We'll go to Senator Mallard.
Yeah, so I understand that the purpose of this is for organizations to prove that they're Tier 3 and to prove that they've gone to the conferences. So then what's the reason for having Section 2 that you're allowed to put like a little note that they didn't that they haven't attended yet? Is that for, hey, yeah, we have the confirmation, but we didn't go, so they're not tier 3, or what's the reason for that?
Yeah, so specifically for the appropriations form that was filled out for the fall semester, many of our student organizations have not yet attended that conference. So in this, it mentions that it will be in their next report, but any of that documentation that they have saying that they will be attending will be, of course, accepted for that documentation. They will also be submitting those receipts to the student body treasurer for those conferences. So that information will still be accepted. They will still be that tier 3 organization. But to start those conversations early about them becoming tier 3 or staying tier 3.
Are there any additional questions, Senator Beatty?
So on line 48, you have that conference or competition acceptance letters could be considered as documentation of attending an event. For multiple of our competition organizations like Formula or Baja, you're applying to 3-4 of these competitions. How would you ensure that them getting an exception to, or getting accepted to their event in October means they went to their event in October?
That's exactly where this idea came from, is that those student organizations, yes, just because they're accepted does not guarantee the attendance. So in that, I would hope that there would be additional documentation for the hotel confirmations and the receipts be submitted to the student body treasurer. And in that case, we're still taking all those documents, but that's when those further conversations with Advisor Fonseca comes into play.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Mallard.
On line 44, you say, but not limited to the following. Is that at the discretion of the treasurer?
Yes. It's just to not pinpoint that these are the only things accepted. If there was anything else that could prove that tier 3 status, or just any documentation that went into their org.
Are there any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you. This legislation has been referred to the Government Oversight Committee. We'll now move into 13.9. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-169, an act to add senator floor speeches to the bylaws.
You have the floor.
Hello again. So as we saw tonight, there was a few senators that spoke during our 3-minute floor speeches section. This process in previous sessions as a viewer took place in public forum, so senators would speak and have to indicate whether they were speaking as students or as senators, and that was during the general public forum time at the beginning of the agenda. As a frequent viewer myself before I became a senator, sometimes this would make it difficult to indicate whether that speaker was a senator speaking as a senator or if they were a student speaking as a student. So in this session, we've seen that division has happened, and I think it has allowed to give our public forum speakers that clear indication, but also that clear respect for our full time and attention. This would add into our bylaws that we keep that designation between senator floor speeches and our regular public forum. However, I will say that there is one amendment that I will make. It is on line 28 of my legislation, removing the written out 3-minute indication. This was during my final edits, removing the title of 3-minute floor speeches to just regular senator floor speeches. So I don't think we should force future sessions to only allow 3 minutes and have that up to the speaker every session to determine how long those speeches will be held. But I do stand for questions.
Thank you. We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for Senator Otten? Chairperson Ping?
With this, does that mean, just correct me if I'm wrong, with this, does that mean you'll be removing the limit that senators have within their quote-unquote public forum, aka the 3 minutes limit, or?
So this would, the amendment that I would be making is just removing that 3-minute indication. Speakers would, or senators would still be able to speak as students within public forum, just as a student standpoint, where in these senator floor speeches, they would be their senator position.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Boyd.
So it says that it should not exceeding 3 minutes in duration, but also on line 2, it says, oh wait, is it line 2? We go back down. So I'm blind. I actually can't see it.
Section C, line 2 reads, the speaker shall determine the time allotment per speech allowed for the session.
Oh yeah, so that means that the Speaker of the Senate could still put it on 3-minute floor speeches, even though in your bylaws you would want to get rid of the 3-minute floor speeches, pretty much.
So that's where my amendment for line 28 would come into play. That would remove exceeding 3 minutes in duration. Every session, the speaker has, certain powers, but this would allow that speaker during that session to determine how long the senator floor speeches have been or will be. In past, it has been 1 minute, and by some feedback, it has then been changed to 3 minutes. So depending on feedback every year, either mid-session or at the beginning of each session, that would be the speaker's decision.
Are there any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. This legislation is referred to the Legislative Affairs Committee, and also to clarify, Legislative Affairs meets on Mondays at 2:30. So if you wish to go to a Legislative Affairs meeting, that's when we'll review this legislation. Before we move into Section 14, closing roll call, after the meeting, I asked Senator Austin to go to the front, take our Senator of the Month photo. But with that, we'll move into Section 14, closing roll call.
It's open.
With that, we'll move into Section 15, adjournment. The Student Government Association Student Senate will stay adjournment until Wednesday, April 8th, 2026 at 7:30 p.m. I adjourn this meeting at 9:46 p.m. Thank you, everyone.